Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the weekend learning sessions as part of the Fellow Cloud webinar series. In today's session, we will have a session on how to leverage Helm to manage your application deployments on your Kubernetes ecosystems. And we have Manoj with us who will be presenting this amazing conversation and discussion with all of you. Just a brief introduction about Manoj. Manoj is based out in Pune, India. He has around 5 years of experience in cloud and DevOps technologies. He loves to explore cutting edge technologies and learn new things. In his free time, he writes technical blogs and he loves to play cricket as well. So, without any further ado, I will hand it over to Manoj. Thank you, Manoj, for taking out time and be with us to present this session. And you can start.
Great, yeah. Thanks, Gaurav, for the introduction. Okay, so guys, we can get started. So today's session is about leveraging Helm to manage and deploy your application into Kubernetes. So I'm excited, and I hope at the end of this session you will have something fruitful, and then you'll learn something new. So without wasting any more further time, we'll get started. Okay, so Gaurav has already given an introduction. So I'm working as a DevOps engineer here in Pune for Siemens. And then my areas of expertise or what I love working is like I'm more enthusiastic on Docker, Kubernetes, DevSecOps practices, then cloud and automation. I'm there on Medium as well. I keep writing technical blogs, and then I'm there on Twitter where I do share some technical blogs as well as useful links that will be helpful for you. Okay, so the agenda of today's session would be like, we'll see what are the K8's Kubernetes deployment method, what are the challenges, then basically what is Helm, why Helm is needed, and an brief architecture on around Helm, what is Helm file structure, and then we'll have a live demo which will be on Amazon Cloud, and then best practices of Helm, and at last we'll have a question and answers which me and Gaurav will try to answer all of your queries. Okay, so I guess most of you guys are aware of Kubernetes and have been working around Kubernetes. Basically, when we speak about Kubernetes and deploying stuff into Kubernetes, you might be aware, right? Everybody has to write these YAML files, and then there are multiple kinds. Like you create the service, the deployments objects, you create pods, and whatever the objects we have in Kubernetes, right? So a typical deployment file is something, it looks like this, right? So for example, this is one for Nginx, which is everybody's favorite for deploying this first or sample application. So it looks like, okay, you define the label, you give a label to your deployment, you give the number of replicas, that means how many number of pods you want to make sure that your application is running, and then you give selectors, which will basically been used by a service for doing the load balancing, and then the specs file where you basically define the image, and then what container port you want to expose on which you want to run your container, and then few other parameters like giving CPU and memory. So once you deploy the things, it basically looks like this. So you'll have this deployment object which will have a replica set under it, which will run your pods. Each replica set will have the number of pods that will be defined, and which underline will be running on your Kubernetes worker nodes. Coming to application deployment methods. So there are multiple deployment methods available. So first is like blue-green, which is like you have the older version running, and along with which you have the newer version, and then you just switch the DNS, and that's how your new version is live. Obviously with this method there is some cost associated with, because we have two parallel environments always up and running. Another method is canary, so which is like basically the canary word comes from a bird in the ancient times when in these chemical factories where the people wanted to check whether the smoke coming out of the chemical factories whether it's hazardous or not. They used to send this canary bird. So if this canary bird comes back, that means okay, the smoke is not that pollutant, or it's not injurious to human beings. So that's what canary is about. So in Kubernetes world, you have an application running, you just deploy a few percentage of new application and then allow the users to test it. If everything goes out, then you basically roll out the new version, and if that 10% of new version has some issues, you basically then roll back. Similar goes with A/B testing. Then rolling update is the default feature or behavior you will get with the Kubernetes, where it will keep on destroying keep on doing the rolling update. Just bring one pod down, deploy the new one once the health check is passed. Yeah, that's how it goes. And again, there is no extra overhead you have to take it, and it works seamlessly and gives you the kind of a zero downtime experience in that. Again, recreate is like where you kill the one and then bring up the new one which is best suitable for the development environment, because here you basically don't achieve this zero downtime deployment strategy. And then the last one, shadow, which is basically again running multiple parallel environments and mocking your services, which has again been suited for your sandbox or development environment. Moving ahead, so what are the current tools and technologies that automation tools are available in the market for deploying your Kubernetes related? So everybody's favorite kubectl is the one everybody uses for managing deploying their application into Kubernetes. Then there are Spinnaker is again quite getting famous, where you get which basically provides you the support or integration with multi-cloud, and then which basically gives a single interface for deploying your Kubernetes based application into multiple cloud vendors. Again we have some Jenkins, which is again quite famous and open source tool. You have this GitHub, and then last comes the Helm. So Helm is again the latest one that's available in the market, and then heavily been used by teams for deploying their stuff to Kubernetes. Okay, so what would be my life without Helm? So it's like everybody knows if Helm would have not been there, everybody has to write this YAML files, which is a bit complex to understand at some time, and then difficult to manage the release. Then if you want to share these files, it's again difficult to sharing of your files. Then if you are using this kubectl method or your YAML files to deploy things in your CI/CD, you have to write some shell script for tweaking few variables so that the deployment is seamless. And again same basically you use kubectl for deploying your things, which it's kind of difficult in terms of managing things. So then Helm is there for your rescue. So what is Helm? So in simple term, Helm is like a package manager for Kubernetes, which basically helps you to install, upgrade whatever the complex application you have in your Kubernetes ecosystem. So if I have to correlate Helm, I would correlate it with something like the apt or yum, that the package manager that we have in Linux environments, right? So if I just go back like few decades before, when there were no yum or apt as a repo manager, think like if I have to install a Apache, how do I do it? So it's like I'll get the binaries, compile them, and then move it to the particular directories, and then so basically with that it was like each or every individual or the companies had their own procedure of installing or deploying things. But with the help of apt or yum coming into picture, now it's a standard process of deploying, let's say, your Nginx as a web server, or Apache or HTTP as a web server. So it's like every companies or every individual uses the same command to install. So that basically has helped us to standardize the configuration and deployment. So similar is the offering that Helm gives. So Helm is helping us to standardize our deployment in Kubernetes, so that everything is transparent and easy to manage. Yeah, so then basically it again gives you a better focus on application development than rather than managing your deployment or worrying about deployment, how things you are going to manage or control. With Helm, what you get is you maintain, Helm helps us to maintain the release history of your application, and then it's like a single click. If something goes back, it's easy to roll back. But if you think about the older kubectl method or anything, you have to do certain steps to even roll back certain version to the previous stable one. Yeah, so if you have any external dependencies in your application, that's also been possible with the help of Helm. So you can manage your external dependencies by just having an additional configuration file and mentioning everything over there. Yeah, and next is it's reproducible and shareable. Yeah, so Helm charts are like something, if you want to share your charts, you can have your own chart repositories and then just share it onto the platform. People will be easy to use your charts and deploy their things. So just speaking about Helm, so Helm is something that was started way back in 2015 under the DIAS project, which was then later owned by Microsoft, and then it was Google's deployment manager team who later joined to create the Helm 2, and that's how the journey started. And now you will see we have a latest release, that is Helm 3, and it's been quite amazing, and people are really seeing the benefits out of it. So yeah, and still Helm is under CNCF incubation project, and you can find all the details on helm.sh. That's the official site of Helm. Yeah, so talking about Helm architecture, so this one is the architecture is about Helm version 2, which was the previous one, but I just wanted to give you over about Helm 2, because then Helm 3 is the version above this. So yeah, what is Helm? Helm is like a client which will be running on your local, similar to like kubectl. You have the kubectl on your local, so you'll have a Helm. And in version 2, what was there? There was a tiller. So tiller was like your server which was running in your Kubernetes cluster. So it was like I would say like a pod or a deployment object that was running in your Kubernetes cluster, and then basically whatever the arguments you are passing from your local through Helm client, the request used to go to your tiller server, which was there in Kubernetes ecosystem, and which was then sending whatever the things we want to do to the Kube API server, which was then basically figuring out which particular node and where you want to deploy your things. Yeah, so with version 3, now this particular Helm Helm tiller server is no more required. That has been kind of degraded. So what you have is you just have a Helm client, and then your Helm client now directly speaks with your K8s API server, and then sends all the details to K8s API server, and then basically it then takes care of deploying your things into Kubernetes cluster. Yeah, so that's so basically with the Helm, it provides you the feature of deploying things from in a single command, upgrading your application version to within a single command. If you want to delete, it's just a single command that I have to hit, and all the application is been teared down. As well as what you can do is you can write create your own charts in Helm, manage your repositories, and even you can have your own public repositories. So there are a lot of companies which have, so for example Bitnami has a lot of its own repositories, and those are like being heavily used by the end users. Yeah, coming to Helm commands, so yeah, so it's again a similar or very simple command Helm provides is like Helm init. If you are a first time user, if you want to get started, so you can just write a Helm init, and it will basically create the whole project structure for you. If you already have a project where you have already set up everything and you want to just install it in or deploy it into the Kubernetes ecosystem, you use Helm install. Similar thing, like you can have get status list. So there is already a bunch of stable charts been available in Helm, which if you want to just find out which stable chart you want to use, you can just use those command using Helm search Yeah, and then last one is basically Helm create and package. So basically, if you want to create, if you want to share your chart to somebody, you can basically create a tar like tar.gz file and then share it across your whatever the colleagues you want to with you whom you want to share. So that's the easiest way. But yeah, I mean, if you can have, so you can set up your own chart repository as well, so as per your need. So chart, when I speak about chart is like a system package. So it has all the it's a bundle of Kubernetes resources. So basically it will have all your configuration file, which will, I would say, like your deployment YAML file, service YAML file, whatever the config maps you want to have, your ingress, whatever. So basic whatever the resources that are required for deploying an application. So its chart is basically a combination of everything. And when I speak repository, so yeah, a repository can have multiple charts. So it's like for example, we can think about npm or ubuntu repository, right? So they have their standard repositories, and inside which they have multiple packages, which we basically just use command to install it. And then release is something like let's say if I have a chart pushed into my repository, I will have a release associated with. So basically with each release I can have the latest whatever the upgrades or enhancements that have been done into the charts, that will be mentioned in the release. So as per your need and requirement, people can use the particular release that would be suited for their environment. Moving ahead, so yeah, we'll have a demo. So in demo, what I will show you is basically a sample application that will deploy on AWS cloud using Helm. And this particular will show you the will deploy a current version, and then we'll release another version. We'll show you how the rollback is easy, and all those offerings, how easy the things go with Helm. So yeah, so I'll just switch my screen.